Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Saco City Council meeting for Monday, May 13th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Let the recognition show that all members of council are present this evening, along with City Administrator Bahenko. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. That now takes us to item number 4, and there is no general this evening. Item number 5, committee correspondence to council. Any council members wishing to speak? Councilor Hewitt?
Hi. The Arts Council wanted me to let you know that the Saco Main Street Arts Festival will be held June 22nd, where the Arts Commission will host a plein air table for kids, introducing them to outdoor painting. The Commission is also retouching the 2 painted crosswalks downtown during the Arts Festival and could use volunteer painters that morning. Reach out to Tori Gorman in Economic Development for additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone asking to speak. Takes us to item number 6, and that is public comment. We do have 3 people signed up this evening. And you please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. First up is Don Pylon.
Don Pylon, Glen Haven Circle. At the last council meeting, I spoke about the school bond that's being proposed, and I just want to add to my comments a couple things that I learned today. I learned today that the FEMA maps, flood maps, the new FEMA flood maps are going to be released to the public. They're actually available today, but the new rates that are going to be initiated on July 1st have significantly increased over what we have been used to. The biggest impact is going to be obviously to Ward 4. The coastal community will see a significant increase to flood insurance premiums. Not only will they see significant impacts, I'll give you an example. Unofficially, they have been paying, I don't know, $5,000 for every $250,000. The average is going up to about $7,000 for every $250,000. Not like down in Furry Beach or Kinney Shores or even Camp Ellis. Those areas are going to see a huge increase. We're just talking about an area that sees a little water in the basement kind of area that may see go to 7,000 per $250,000. The coastal area in Ward 4 is going to see a tremendous increase. If you want to know the rates, you'd have to contact somebody, whoever the EMA director is in the city, would have to contact York County EMA, and he or she would contact FEMA. My point is, that coastal area, Ward 4, is taking a huge hit. They're going to pay big premiums for not only flood insurance, the bond, because they have the highest assessed values for residential real estate in the town. And so I know we need schools, but take into consideration the valuations in Ward 4 and now this huge increase in FEMA rates along the coast. So, just take those things in consideration, and I hope our council person will advocate for us down in Ward 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Jean Saunders.
Good evening. My name is Jean Saunders. I reside at 3 Plymouth Drive. I'm the Executive Director of Age-Friendly Saco, and I also serve as citizen representative to the City of Saco on the BSU Board. I'm here tonight to follow up on some of the comments that were made at the council meeting last week addressing our local transit service. First, you should know that I consider Age-Friendly Saco to be a transit provider as well. We are a transit provider by default, as we're responding to the unmet transportation needs in our community. We were asked by Mayor Bill Doyle in 2019 to develop a pilot for a medical rides program for our residents as the need was real. At that time, it was hoped that this program would become part of BSU, but that has not been the case. The need for this type of transportation has continued to grow, and we are grateful for the continued support at the City of Saco for this service. Last year, we provided close to 1,000 medical rides for our residents to attend medical appointments. However, once this program started, it became very clear that residents also had other transportation issues as well, since they couldn't access essential services such as going to the library, the grocery store, pharmacy, bank, polls, community center. These are all places that our residents can now access due to the initiation of a new on-demand transit microtransit system Age-Friendly developed with the help of a $42,000 grant from AARP and the Toyota Foundation. This was a quick action grant. We knew if we received these funds last June, we had to have in place a microtransit system by December. We were able to initiate our program in October of last year, and so far we provided 325 rides through the shared ride service. Though we are grateful to have been gifted a van for this program, we would have found a way of providing these services in any case, be it through a lease, etc. We would have found a way to start. I make these points as I think it's important that we realize that the time is now for our communities to demand a new vision of transportation, one that is equitable and provides equal access to all segments of the population, meaning now is the time for communities to step up and demand inclusive transportation. Transportation networks reflect the values of the decision makers that design them. In other parts of the world, we see transportation networks that focus on people and safe places to walk and ride. Maine is the oldest state in the nation and the second most rural state. Where are these factors accounted for in our current transportation system? We often see the transportation industry facing paralysis by analysis and perhaps measuring the wrong metrics. Where do we see reflected the age of our public served by our public transportation systems? Are all ages being served on transportation system that only offers fixed routes? How many individuals access our transportation system? Do we measure individual identifiers or only ridership? I believe equity starts with an inclusive outreach process to understand the community's needs. Equity comes down to a vision of fairness and understanding who is being served. A community asked to finance a transportation agency should be able to know how many residents are being served, the average age of transit riders, and the actual subsidized cost of a ride. Equity demands that we make hard decisions as a community to prioritize people, resources, time, and funds. It will require elected leadership to make hard decisions and a transportation organization willing to implement them. When we started our microtransit program last year, it was the knowledge that BSUB Transit was funded for a microtransit pilot, which was slated to commence in 2023. Now we hear that the vehicles being sourced aren't available and the pilot is being pushed to 2025. Age-Friendly Saco will not be able to continue to provide our shared ride services after our grant funds are depleted in 2024. This service was to be a stopgap measure to meet the needs of our community that are expected to be served by a microtransit pilot in 2024. Suggesting that providing more money will result in more federal subsidies without understanding how the system would be changed to prove to be more equitable and accessible accomplishes little. We need to push against the forces in an industry typically resistant to change. We need less planning and engineering coming from behind a computer and more engagement and collaboration with our communities. We need a transportation service that is less focused on on-time data analytics and more focused on whether the transportation needs of the entire community are being met equitably. We know that fewer fixed routes in combination with an on-demand, door-to-door transit service will meet the needs of not only our older residents, but all members of our community. Driving a personal vehicle should not be the only default transportation option in our community. We should be moving quickly to design a system to address our community needs. I'm almost finished. We know that microtransit programs do not require commercial driver's licenses and are more flexible to go into areas that large buses cannot access. This service allows for flexible routes and on-demand rides at a low cost to people that are typically not well served by public transit. 20% of our population now is between the ages of 60 and 75. That percentage will only continue to grow. We know that children born today can expect to live to the age of 100. Now is the time to build longevity-ready communities. To do that, we have to be willing to make some hard choices and advocate to meet the transportation needs of our entire community. I took Sheldon's time, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, that is all that we have signed up on the sheet tonight. If there is any other member wishing to speak, please step up to the podium.
Good evening. If you want to reset my timer. I won't need very much. Peter Van Hemmel from Bernstein Shire on behalf of the Ecology School. I'm very pleased to report, in anticipation of your action items, I think it's B and C this evening, we've had a very productive week working with City Attorney Murphy, Director Fox, and Administrator Bohanko. Had a chance to review the sub-agreements, I think we've been calling it, promissory note, mortgage, and loan agreement, which underpin the BPI financing arrangement that has been under discussion and is before the council for consideration tonight. We've had a very healthy and collaborative discussion over the inventory of those documents, and I'm pleased to report, I think we're final. I communicated that with Attorney Murphy this morning. We both made what we considered final changes, all comments accepted, final versions ready to go. So the Ecology School is ready to sign, and I think it's been a very healthy and productive process. So I wanted to thank the city's excellent staff for its work and support this week in anticipation of meeting tonight's deadline. So thank you very much to the city and its staff, and it was very productive and collaborative arrangement, and full credit to those of us who received the benefit of the city's work. Thank you very much, and we'll hopefully look forward to this collaboration continuing.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any members of the public wishing to be addressed. That moves on to item number 7, and there is no approval of the minutes this evening. Item number 8, consent items. There are 2 items. Item A is notice of elections for the budget validation referendum and special referendum election for June 11th, 2024. And B, confirm the mayor's reappointment to the planning board of James Mueller. Is there a motion to accept the consent items?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion on the consent items? Councilor Johnston?
I would request that we remove item A.
Okay, there has been a request to remove item A from consent to action. So that leaves just item B, confirm the mayor's reappointment to the planning board. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to action items. And item A from consent has been moved down and is now action item A. And that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The notice of election is being submitted to the mayor and city council to authorize the budget validation referendum and special referendum election scheduled for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. The clerk has required by Title 21-A, Article subsection 622A, has prepared the notice of election, which will be posted in all wards on or before June 4th, 2024. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the notice of election for the budget validation referendum and special referendum election scheduled for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. Move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gunn. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, I only pulled it because I just wanted to, again, reemphasize the fact that we do have an election, a rather important election, and I'm not positive, so staff can help me with this, but I believe early voting is starting tomorrow,
13th?
I think,
Yep, 13th.
Michelle.
so today. So those out there that early vote, you can do so now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone. Roll call vote. Counselor Ratcher?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item B, which is now item C. I'm sorry, item A, which is now item B. That is the public hearing, renewal application for a special entertainment permit for Pacifico Restaurant, and that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. Alejandra Herrera, doing business as Pacifico Restaurant LLC, has applied for a renewal of the establishment's special entertainment permit. The applicant has paid all applicable permit fees, and the clerk has properly advertised the public hearing in accordance with the Saco City Code, Chapter 93, Entertainment, Section 93-2. I move to open the public hearing.
Motion has been made to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Roll call vote. Counselor Ratcher?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to open the public hearing passes 7-0. If there is any member of the public wishing to speak on this item, please step forward. Okay, not seeing anyone seeking recognition. Counselor Johnston?
Move to close the public hearing and be it ordered that the City Council grant the renewal application submitted by Alejandra Herrera, doing business as Pacifico Restaurant LLC, for a special entertainment permit to be concurrent with the establishment's liquor license. I move to approve the order.
Motion by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hewitt. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Ratcher?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt, Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item B, which is now item C, and that is one reading of the Ecology School Business Partnership Initiative, the BPI, for the left turn lane on Route 112 and construction loan agreement, sub-agreement. And that is Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On May 6, 2024, the council authorized the city administrator to enter into a BPI agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation for the Route 112 turn lane project at Simpson Road. This agreement requires the city to administer the project with reimbursement for 1/3 of the project coming from MDOT. A sub-agreement is required between the city and the Ecology School to define roles and responsibilities for design, construction, and payments. I move to authorize the city administrator to enter into a construction loan agreement with Ecology Education, Inc., consistent with the terms of the draft proposed loan agreement presented tonight, to be secured by a promissory note and mortgage for the purpose of building a left turn lane off State Route 112 at the intersection of Simpson Road.
Motion has been made by Counselor Roger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. So as I said last week, I am appreciative of, the efforts that staff has put into this. Obviously, for many, it's, certainly Mr. Vahenko, it's all new to him. I kind of came into the situation. So I am appreciative of that, and I'm happy to see that there are some documentation that I believe Councilor Hatch had requested. For me personally, however, it still lacks some level of clarity that I had hoped to achieve through this process. I mean, I could make amendments, but I'm capable of reading tea leaves, and I have pretty clear understanding of where this is going based on last week's vote, so I won't waste our time. But I will say that a key element that I'm still concerned with goes back to, comments from the public, comments I had stated when it comes back, or the question of, and I understand this is separate to the question before us, as far as compliance issues, where we are at specifically to date, that clarity is lacking still for me personally. I have, after reading the documentation that was provided, I actually have further concerns based on the language in regards to what this act does to the current site plan, because the language there, in my opinion, circumvents the planning board's authority front and center, to be honest, as far as implying that the city, whoever the city is, I would assume city staff would waive the requirement or set date of November 2025, which seems to me needs to be an amendment by the planning board, which could have been done, this whole time that we've really discussed it. So, like I said, I won't belabor it. I certainly will have follow-up after this vote. I will say that I have concerns that we can, again, on a dime, just find $309,000 when myself, other counselors, the public has quite often sought funding for a variety of things. But again, that's a council decision, so yeah, I mean, I guess to the public and the ecology school, the members of the ecology school, I personally would actually apologize just for this overall process, start to end. I don't feel it's been, and this isn't a criticism of anybody in particular, I don't feel it's been really productive. I feel that there are certain people that might be happy, other people that are probably really not happy, and in that, given the fact that I've been involved with this for 8 years and can literally go back to the moments where we eared or we didn't have enough information and we moved forward anyway. And I understand that government moves slow, and I used to say that when I was younger, but then I came to realize that government's supposed to move slow so that everybody involved feels as though they've had ample opportunities to participate. I don't feel that's the case here. So, the council decides what the council says, but as we are, as Councilor Archer indicated last week, we're going to end up in legal battles. Well, the courts work both ways, and that opportunity is there and available to the public too. So ADBs are available, and so are ADC if you choose to go after a state agency's decisions. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. I just want a point of clarification from City Administrator Bahenko. My understanding is that you will bring back the final agreement to us or I just want to make sure that the changes that I submitted have in fact been embedded, the suggested changes.
I did receive those over the weekend and had them transmitted over to Attorney Murphy. I mean, I I can put those in, but then we'd have to make sure that the ecology school is accepting of those amendments.
Okay, so maybe I'll just put on the floor so everybody knows what I'm
Sure.
talking about, if that's okay. I had read through the documents. I have absolutely no problem with the documents. In fact, it's a key component of my willingness to actually compromise here on this situation. So in these are what I would consider to be minor changes, to just to clarify things, but on page 18 of our packet is page 2 of the construction loan agreement, paragraph 3A. I would suggest that we insert on line A after the word thereafter on July 1st. We have no specified date each calendar year, and it should be consistent from start to finish, at least in my opinion. Similar insert, paragraph B, thereafter on July 1st. If we go to the promissory note, which is page 20 of our packet, page 1 of the promissory note, paragraph, the repayment schedule A, B, and C, paragraph A and B should also have inserted each year on July 1st thereafter. So that would be 2 add-ins. And then finally, on page 21 of the promissory note, I'm sorry, page 21 of the packet, which is page 2 of the promissory note, paragraph 6 has shall be repeated twice, so I would strike one pair of shall be's from the final document. These are minor. I think they just add clarity. I don't want to be sitting here next year and wondering what day of the year we were supposed to get paid. So those are my suggestions for the public record.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Archer?
So are these actually amendments that we're going to vote on today? Because if we vote on it, we can then present a final document to the ecology school and their legal counsel, and if they identify it to be minor, they can just sign the document. I would say that I don't see the need to delay this to then come back. If they choose not to sign it, then it has to come back. But I believe we can move forward if you put that as an amendment.
Counselor Hatch, would you like to do that as an amendment?
I would, Mayor McPhail, and I think my points were clear. I can repeat them, but I'd like to amend the approval to include those changes to the original document.
Second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch, second by Counselor Archer. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 on the amendment. Back to the main motion. Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote on the main motion only. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, that now takes us to item C, which is now item D, and that is amendment to the fiscal year 2025 City Administrator's Budget for Route 112 Left Turn Lane Business Partnership Funding, and that is Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that adds $308,233 from the unassigned fund balance to fund a portion of the Route 112 Churn Lane construction project. These funds will be repaid to the city by the ecology school per the traffic improvement construction agreement between the ecology school and the city. Be it ordered that the city council add 300070 tag 500915 tag 03869 BPI Route 112 Churn Lane for $308,233.
Motion has been made by Counselor Archer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gunn. Any discussion on the motion? Counselor Johnston?
It's an amendment to the capital budget, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'd say it's out of order then. Shouldn't it be as an amendment when we take up the capital budget versus the regular budget.
I don't, given this is my first time through the budget process here in Saco, I don't see that to be any harm to do it then or now. But it's certainly council's decision.
Counselor Johnston, you okay leaving it as is?
I'll vote accordingly. My overall point is the motion and the language isn't clear that this is for the capital fund. So from my perspective, it would look like it's the general fund. There are two separate votes by charter. Overall, it's not a big deal, but I do like the historical record to be accurate.
Counselor Gunn?
Would, rather than simply doing this later, just amend the amendment to put in the language capital, would that not satisfy the requirements of the charter, so we don't have to turn this into a big rigmarole?
Sure. I mean, I
Because you
get-
can go back and do the
During-
chart, the capital plan later, I mean, if there's other amendments to be had, though, so I mean, it's just, do it now, do it in an hour, really doesn't have any, doesn't change anything.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
The information's also
Oh, in the microphone.
Hello? The information is also on the amendment number 4, the Ecology School BPI, and it states that the department is capital. I think that was a handout that was
Yeah,
left.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And I get that it clearly labels what account it's coming from. I'm just saying from a motion perspective from council where pretty much my perspective, increasing the general fund when it should be the capital fund, unless you want it to come from the general fund. So, I mean, you could either rescind the motion and just tack it in back at the capital fund, or you could move forward however you want, and just 1/7 over here.
We could add capital fund to it and just put it in the capital fund. That's all we need to do, right?
Do we need to table this one? Or how would, what's,
No, I think you could just,
Amend it.
you could just put it in as capital and we just go through it, similar to what we're doing with the other amendments.
but we need to finalize this motion.
So in the attachment that I handed out, it did say department capital, and in that item, that was the attachment, says capital project, ecology school, BPI, and then the revenue is coming from the use of fund balance. So it does identify capital as a department. That's how we would recognize it within the budget. And I guess I would ask for city council's indulgence that, I'm going through this the first time, both Jerry and I. So if, I'm very thankful that you've identified this, and we certainly will put it in under the capital as required.
So I guess my question, though, is procedurally, if Counselor Johnston wants to move this to item G,
Good, if you want.
we need to complete this motion to get it off so that we can add the amendment onto G to add. Is this a no vote? Would we go through the regular process to get a no vote?
I would ask the
And then make an
parliamentarian.
amendment? Or, I guess, procedurally, I'm trying to
So a
do
no
this
vote-
way of getting this off.
A no vote would lead to us not being able to actually add
Right,
this
you can't-
under G.
But as I said, you could just,
Amend it.
or rescind the motion.
Rescind the
And
motion.
then bring this back, Or, since, again, this is.
Because again, even rescinding the motion, and if there is no second, it dies.
Well,
So
yes,
it-
but nothing prevents Council Archer from bringing this back later tonight during the capital portion. But really just adding, it says be it ordered the city council account number, for 300 whatever, just clarifying that that's the capital fund would be sufficient for me personally.
Okay, would you like to make an amendment to change the motion? Adding the wording.
Yeah, sure. I would amend the motion to, currently reads, be it ordered that the city council add, with that long, lengthy account number, which is for a BPI for Route 112, turning lane for $308,233, and it needs the revenue, right? I think that's what we're missing.
Yes,
right?
and
Is
the
that what I'm?
Yes, use of fund balance. It has the sheet that I handed out that actually articulates the expense and the revenue.
Okay, so I would add with the use of fund balance or account 10350300800 and 00000.
That would work.
As part of the capital budget.
Okay. Amendment has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Archer. Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call vote on the amendment only. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion on the amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion. Any additional discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote on the main motion. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Okay, that now takes us to item D, which is now item E, reducing captured value percentages of the downtown municipal development and tax increment financing district. And that is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. City of Saco would significantly increase the property tax rate if 100% of taxes paid on the captured assessed values in the downtown development TIF district were to be transferred into the district. This motion returns 43% of the downtown development TIF district revenues for the FY 2025 budget year. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the reading of the resolution titled Reducing Captured Value Percentage of the Downtown Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Archer. Any discussion on the motion?
I
Counselor Berman, then Counselor Johnston?
was just going to clarify,
Oh, sorry.
if that's okay with Councilor Berman. Okay. So I left out second and final reading because we have never had a first reading on this, so it seemed inappropriate to read second and final. So if that's what you're wondering, I don't think that really has any impact on the motion. But that's not for me to decide. I understand the intent. I guess I would, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I would point out the fact that there is no resolution in the packet. So we're essentially being asked to approve something that none of us have read. I'm assuming is probably verbatim to the one we had last year, but that still doesn't change the fact that I haven't read it, none of you have read it, the public hasn't seen it, and so this seems to be a theme that's starting to become rather concerning to me. So there's that, aside from other comments I have, but I'll let others address that.
Yes, please.
Well, I thought that the motion would be sufficient but was unaware that the resolution was necessary. So I take, full responsibility for that. I just wanted to make sure this motion was passed before we go into approving the entire budget. I know last year there was an issue with this in particular that caused some issues as it relates to taxes, and I wanted to make sure it got in as a amendment to be able to reduce the captured value and put it into the general fund. And I thought that was sufficient to do. I didn't know there was an actual resolution that was required, given that no other part of the budget requires a resolution. I certainly would have provided it if I thought it was necessary.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Johnston? Stress.
It certainly is an answer.
Excuse me, what?
I said it certainly is it's an answer.
all I-
It's a valid answer.
All I can, if I might.
Again, I don't specifically know. We ran into this problem last year. I don't know if the state requires it to be in resolution form, because last year it was a page document that was read into the record. So that's just what stood out to me. Maybe it's not needed, I don't know. But when we speak of a resolution and I'm stating that we're approving it and I haven't read it, I just personally have an issue with it, but maybe others don't.
If I might, Your Honor?
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I defer to Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to get into anything here, but we've had the budget, we've had this agenda in front of us for 4 days, though, so if we really wanted to make an issue out of this, we've had 4 days to go over this and make suggestions to staff to include such language like that. Now, to the city administrator's point, if there's nothing, and to Councilor Johnson's point for that matter, if there's nothing materially different from the resolution, I'm perfectly fine in having it, though, but I don't think if there isn't anything to the contrary, there's no point in beating this down, though, when it's a matter of routine. We know what the substance is, and I think we should just move on with the action. Thank you.
Councilor Johnston?
Well, again, Councilor Gunn, I respect your opinion, but at the same time, you nor I or anybody else up here gets to dictate how others use their time and when they read their packet or components of their packet. And to be quite honest, I didn't look at these 2 items until this afternoon because I was more fixated on the other items that had substance that was new to me in the packet this past weekend. So again, your opinion, that's fine, but that's how I've always approached this. I cut up my time between being a father, running business, doing other things, how I see fit. And with this particular item, I thought it was just going to be the exact same as last year. But it doesn't remove the fact that if there is a member of the public that wanted to read it, it is substantial. We're talking about returning 42% of the downtown TIF back to the general fund. Maybe they're not out there, but they might have a concern. And so overall, with my point, again, I said I wasn't trying to be difficult. You can take that for whatever it's worth. But the reality is I don't really view this as all that necessary tonight to begin with, so a delay doesn't impact this 1 week, just like last week. It's not a requirement. This is all new to us. We've never had this recaptured until last year because the law didn't exist until 2020. So technically speaking, we've never done this. Last year, we failed to pass it. Right. I don't think it's a necessary vote per se, but again, council can vote however they want on it.
So, Your Honor, if I might.
Yes,
Ask the Director of Discharge to come forward and speak to the issue, since she does a lot with the administration of the TIF.
Good evening, Tracy Desjardins, Director of Economic Development. In going back through what we did last year, Councilor Johnston is correct. So there was a resolution that was put together. This material was kind of put together beforehand and didn't realize as far as the resolution, so we do have one in here as far as the resolution. that it can be based upon this, allowing the city administrator to approval and going back and doing the resolution to make sure that we're in compliance as far as within the state. But again, it was getting the information out there to make sure that it was in the forefront, that everybody knew that that was the original plan. But we will be required to do the resolution.
And thank you, Director. That being said, if you want to table this, that's fine. I just hope we don't end up in the same situation we were last year. This is 50 cents on the rate, so if it doesn't get approved, then the tax rate will go up 50 cents. I mean, if that's something we need to do, I have no problem. If the council would like to table it, I'll bring it back for next week. And everybody knows the impact and circumstances that will occur if you don't do it. If you approve the budget tonight, that's fine. We don't have to set the tax rate until later on, but just so the council's clear, the same type of thing happened last year, and the rate went up. And I would just advise that if it doesn't happen, the rate will go up 50 cents. So I have no problem tabling it and make sure everybody's satisfied with the resolution.
Councilor Archer? Councilor Archer, is your,
Oh, sorry about that. I was looking at the document. I'm looking at the document that we approved on July 24th, 2023. Are there any changes, or can we just add this? Or can we recess, potentially a strategy is we recess to allow the city administrator to print it out, give the old copy a quick look.
Sure.
If it doesn't change,
Take a recess.
hand it to the council and we can all review it and then vote?
yep, we certainly can do that. Would you like clarification first if it's all the same, or just,
It should be pretty
Go right
much
to
all the
recess.
same. Yeah. Yeah, if we take a recess, I'll take care of it. So, I'll make sure. Yeah, 5 minutes would be enough.
okay, we will take a 5-minute recess. It is 7:17. We will be back at 7:22. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so in continuation to item D, now item E, which is reducing the captured value percentage of the downtown municipal development tax increment financing district. There was a motion made by Councilor Johnston, second by Councilor Archer. Any additional discussion regarding the resolution that's been provided? Councilor Berman.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My comments aren't about the process or the resolution itself, but rather the concept. I remain, as I was in July, in general skeptical of the long-term value of these TIF transfers into the general fund. While I understand what the city is trying to accomplish here in taking unused money in TIF districts and putting them into the general fund to create a one-year offset that benefits the taxpayer, what it does is it takes properties that are right now protected from view of the state in our schools ED 279 and makes it visible to them again. So we end up seeing a one-year savings that's accounting for the lower tax rate we see, and that is a benefit to the taxpayers, but it then causes our state subsidies for education to be reduced over the next 3 years. And so we're going to end up seeing an increase in our school taxes that's going to partially offset the savings that we're reaping today. In addition, by taking this money out of the TIF accounts and putting them into the general fund, it removes money that was to be used for long-term capital projects, in this case, downtown beautification, maintenance and repairs, and in the case of the transit, improving public transit, a topic that's gotten a great deal of discussion tonight and in previous nights. And when I see what's now clearly spelled out in our resolution, that there aren't sufficient projects, that's not the way it appears to me. I see great needs downtown for economic development, and I see great needs for improving transit, which makes it difficult for me to support a TIF transfer suggesting that we don't have sufficient projects to utilize these TIF funds. So while I understand the need to protect the taxpayer, we had one of my residents here tonight talking about some of the struggles in my ward, which I understand very well. I fear that this isn't the best long-term strategy to do so, and it's going to be hard to unwind. When we stop making these transfers someday in the future, we're going to see a large, sudden tax increase. And it just sets us on a path that I was skeptical about in July, and I remain skeptical about now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with Councilor Berman, but before I make my comment, I would like to amend the previous motion that I made to now include, whereas the City of Saco, the city is authorized pursuant to Title 30A, Maine Revised Statutes, Section 5223D, as amended to, by vote of the municipal officers, return to the municipal general fund any tax increment revenues remaining in a tax increment financing district's project cost account in excess of those estimated to be required to satisfy the obligations of that particular tax increment financing district's development project cost account. Whereas there is a need to spend taxpayers' dollars on projects that are not approved project costs pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 206 and Title 30A of the Maine Revised Statutes, the TIF statute. And whereas currently the development program allows the city to capture 100% of the increased assessed value in the district, and whereas the city deposits 100% of the taxes paid on the captured assessed values, TIF revenues, into the city's project cost subaccount and 0.39% of the TIF's revenues in the Baxter and Cutts LLC in Foresight Realty LLC project cost subaccount pursuant to the credit enhancement agreements executed on 2/11/2020. And whereas the city would like to lower the amount of TIF revenues deposited into the city's project cost subaccount and transfer a portion of those TIF revenues to the city's general fund, now therefore be it resolved as follows. Section 1, the City of Saco City Council, serving as the city's municipal officers, hereby votes to return 43% of the TIF revenues deposited in the city's project cost subaccount for the Downtown Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District, the TIF district, to the city's general fund for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Section 2, the City of Saco City Council understands that such determination shall mean the 43% of the property taxes paid on the increased assessed value within the district for the fiscal year 2024-2025 will go to the city's general fund. All tax increment financing revenues previously collected for the district shall continue to be used on the district's approved project cost. Section 3, the City Council may in the future by vote return the captured value percentage allocated to the city's project cost subaccount to a level consistent with the development program for the district for fiscal year 2024-2025. The City Council, or Section 4, the City Council will need to take action on reducing the percentage of TIF revenues deposited into the city's project subaccount, project cost subaccount. If action is not taken, the percentage allocated to the city's project cost subaccount will be to a level consistent with the terms of the development program for the district. Section 5, City Administrator is hereby directed to notify the Department of Economic and Community Development of such reduction in the city's allocation of TIF revenues to the city's project cost subaccount. Section 6, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon 5/13/2024, and I move to approve the resolution.
Amendment has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Archer. Any discussion on the amendment? Counselor Johnston.
Thank you. Maybe I just wanted to read. Back to Councilor Berman's point, and I too will be supporting this as I did last July when this first came up. However, as Councilor Berman indicated, while I certainly appreciate staff and the administrators' efforts to try to keep taxes low or lower or as low as they can be, at the same time, having been here when we passed this development district, and personally having spent a lot of time with then city administrator and economic development director trying to really hone in on how to improve the downtown district, which again, that was the intent of a TIF district. It's for the betterment of the downtown economically. Part of that approval is identifying a blighted area. I, to this day, look around 5-6 years later and have a hard time returning 43% back to the general fund when I've yet to see the level. And again, this is not a criticization of anybody in particular. It's, as I said last year, we've never sat down as a council with staff and identified the projects we desire as a community. Now, the money's building up. The money has to get spent. So city staff works to try to figure out how best to utilize those funds within the parameters of the projects that are approved. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we, being the elected body, or the public even desires. I mean, we sit here and we hear, meeting after meeting about infrastructure needs or transportation needs or the unsafe nature of the areas we live in, and yet we don't do anything about it. And so for me, clearly I'm frustrated. I think it's evident. I think that has shown, several meetings in a row, and I can't tell you that's going to change. I'm, beyond aggravated with it because I have to continuously witness it, live it, and hear from people with the same challenges that I face. I look at crumbling sidewalks in the downtown when I know we've got millions of dollars sitting in a TIF account. And I'm not saying that, we can rush right out tomorrow and spend those dollars. Obviously, there's only so much staff and whatnot to attack them. But again, after a decade of looking at things going, well, I'd really like to get to that project, and it not happening, it's kind of at the point where I have to take the bull by the horns myself and start digging in, being, I guess, the grumpy old man down here. I think, no, I'm no longer the youngest. So again, overall, I get it, and I understand the intent, and I will support the 43%. But, I mean, as I said last year, if we're returning almost 50% back, perhaps the district's too large. I don't know if it is, but at the very least, I'd like to start spending that money in ways that benefit the actual TIF district that it was intended to benefit. Right now, I feel like it's a shell game, really, as Councilor Berman was indicating. It's like, okay, so we do this to shelter money from the state with state revenue sharing, so it benefits our schools and it benefits state revenue sharing as a whole, but then a couple of years later, we move money back out, and we're moving it all around, and to be honest, we totally ignore the fact that, in a way, we're absolutely, I'm searching for a more appropriate word, but impacting the county negatively, because we're also sheltering our valuation to what the county then taxes us on. So in many ways, the city of Saco, city of Biddeford, maybe the city of Sanford, larger communities that have the ability to really have these big, robust TIF districts are disproportionately really paying compared to, say, some of these smaller communities that don't have that availability. And again, it benefits us, but when you look at it collectively, at the county level, it's kind of unfair, particularly when you have such a robust TIF district that we have with the downtown. I mean, it's growing exponentially, and I don't see that changing any. So, yeah, I mean, just going back to 2017 when we first, started moving towards the downtown development district, this law, as far as returning money to the general fund, did not exist. So it was the full intent of that council. Again, I only speak for myself, but I understood that we're going to build this up and then spend the money. And here we are returning it to the tax or to the general fund in an attempt to spend more, because that's what we are doing. We are spending more collectively as a city, but then, play this game of moving money around it. And in many ways, I don't think it's transparent. I don't feel it's transparent. I don't think the budget's transparent. And this isn't anything new. I've said this many years in a row. We fund staff out of TIF district. It's an approved use. You've all heard me through the years say I don't agree with it, because my opinion of it is if I need a city manager, if I need a finance director, that's understood, and the general tax portion of the community should spend it if it's needed, not, oh, well, this segment of the population is going to pay for that through TIF. It just, as it was indicated by Councilor Berman, at some point it ends, and then a whole bunch of payments start coming out of the general fund, and all of a sudden people go, well, why do we have these positions? And from a perspective, and I had this conversation years ago with the economic development director, when it was first proposed, I said to her at the time, if I was you, I wouldn't want my salary, my entire department coming out of the TIF, because all of a sudden it is going to come back in and people are going to say, I don't need that position. It's better to justify your value through the general fund than play this shell game. With that, I will get off my soapbox. But again, I'm hoping next year we can spend more time trying to figure out how to better utilize these funds and improve the community. Thank you.
And to that, Councilor Johnson, that's why I chose to bring back workshops. So if you feel of bringing a workshop, please request it to discuss projects that we can be using TIF funds. Just takes a request. Councilor Hatch, then Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. I would just like to jump on that bandwagon. I'm listening to this discussion. I agree with how we move money around and why that happens and why we're not funding projects within the TIF districts that the money was designated to. So I would support a workshop that we can collectively develop some policies, understand the TIF funding more clearly, and hopefully come back to some sort of process where we can be identifying projects in these TIF districts that, you know, we can try to either, if staff cannot, we don't have enough staffing to complete the projects, then maybe we subcontract out to get them done. So I want to echo your sentiments, Mayor McPhail, about a workshop around this topic. And by the way, I'm the old man on the dates.
Anyone else? Councilor Gunn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, you both look great, so don't worry about it. I just wanted to, not to beat the, to beat the dead horse, though, because we got to have this debate about a year ago, and one of the reasons I was with Councilor Berman, I think it was Councilor Archer, that we didn't agree, we voted to basically vote down the TIF transfer, as I think all three of us agreed in principle that it wasn't the best long-term solution, although I had a secondary reason, though, that it was sort of done, it was done pretty much under the staff at that time made the assumption that it was a good idea. And honestly, many times you'll save taxes. Yeah, it is a good idea. I think we can all agree that. But at the same time, I had an issue with the fact that when it comes to prioritizing tax cuts versus the everyday needs, because coming out of COVID, trying to, keep things solvent, though, I didn't think it was prudent to basically let staff come up with policy on their own, present it to us as if it was a fait accompli, and that we were basically just being treated as a rubber stamp. And I was on the record of that a year ago, and that's one of the reasons I was against that TIF transfer. That being said, a year later, the process as it is, both the mayor and in my conversations with the city administrator explained to me his rationale, was completely upfront about it, and I felt satisfied that while I'm not exactly a fan of the principle, I appreciate the effort in order to take the edge off taxes, especially considering what happened with property taxes last year. That being said, I have already asked the mayor this, and I know I've brought this up with other councilors, that I'm looking forward to workshops in the plural, because, we have in our budget book a list of the TIF districts, but we have our own ideas for projects, but at the same time, we have people out there who just, know of things that sometimes don't get up to our level, though, and to give us some time, especially now that we're going into the slow season, we can actually have our constituents, we can invite them through Facebook, through our own correspondence, to give us ideas about where we can use TIF districts the most efficiently, and also things that we're not really thinking about. So that way, when we sit down and start brainstorming with staff, how can we actually start using these things for how they were intended, we can have a really fruitful conversation. But that being said, we don't have to put it all in one workshop. I was kind of hoping, we get into June, maybe have a initial conversation about it, give us the public some time to give us some feedback, and maybe in August or September, I think we still have 2 meetings, though, where it's still kind of slow, we can sit down and really think this out, though, because like, Councilor Johnson's point, we've been kind of sitting on this kind of nebulous situation for years, and I'm really eager to start using these TIFs the way they were intended, because not every state has this. This is a gift from Augusta to allow us to shelter money and fix our city without it hitting the general fund, and we should be enthusiastically going after projects using those TIF funds, because otherwise it's just a matter of taxes going up anytime we want something done, though, and that's the reason TIFs were pretty much created. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Archer?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the strategy on this. When you look at page, 195, looking at the 5-year plan, it looks like we're going to have a surplus of $2.5 million in the revenues over expenses of the downtown TIF. But then fiscal year 26, 27, 28, it stabilizes. We're talking about $1 million deficit between what's projected. I'll say it's projected. 2.2 million in revenue for next year, but 3.3 in expenses. And I'm just trying to understand the strategy, because the way I read this, we're going to be taking it, obviously, I know what I'm seeing. But I'm just looking, how are we planning to fund future, are we just kind of spending down that balance over the 5-year plan? 28, it's 2.2 in and 2.3 out. Like I said, that's stabilizing. But we got a couple years where we're taking a $1 million deficit on these accounts. Transit's kind of similar as well, but we're only speaking about downtown at the moment. I do understand the immediate gratification benefit, I get that, but are we going to be putting ourselves in a position where a little tighter for future 26, 27, 28, 29, recognizing I don't see any revenue generated over the expenses for the next couple of years? So is this just a one-time thing and then we have to figure it out 4 years later, or is there a strategy that I'm just not aware of? Thank you.
City Administrator, do you have an answer for that, or do you want to refer it off to Finance?
No,
Or
I
economic.
think it's important to answer the question. When I came in, I certainly agree with the premise of utilizing TIF funds for capital projects. Sometimes there is a need for, it's more or less a release of pressure within the community. You have to realize last year, you were at about a 60% ratio with your assessments. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because nobody faced up to the fact they had to do a revaluation. I think the misnomer about TIF is that it's not, it's grant money or it's free money or whatever. It's just like you're taking some money out of one pocket and put it into another pocket. It's the city taxpayers' money. And last year, we had a tremendous, tremendous impact on a large amount of residents in this community. And I just felt that it was important this year, since the ability for the over 65 plan, which was in place and was repealed, if we didn't do anything, we'd have people, the 15% of the people, let me back up, 85% of households are going to have a tax decrease in single-family residences. There's 15% that are going to have an increase still, even though we're reducing by 70 cents. The fact is that those people are over 65. They're probably people that can least afford the impact that would be happening within the community. Sometimes you have to use some of the money you've put away to try to smooth out some of the rough edges that occurred because nobody wanted to do a revaluation. We're up to 92% ratio. We're in a good spot right now. Doesn't mean we should just sit on that. We should continue to look to make sure we have statistical updates on a regular basis so that we don't go through this again. In my opinion, this is an ability to lessen the impact on 85% of our single-family residences that had major impacts last year. Certainly, and I agree wholeheartedly, that this is a city council policy decision. If the city council chooses to only take 23% out of the downtown TIF, or 14% out of the transit TIF, that's fine. But you're going to have to put together a plan to spend that money. To have that money sheltered and continue to be sheltered isn't in the best interest of the city. So I just thought that, from my perspective, this is something I offered up after being here a week and finding out that many people had huge increases in taxes, some that almost put them where they couldn't pay them. I felt that at this point that we needed to have some kind of relief factor for those. They may not be in the downtown district, but this funding is for the betterment of the entire community. And I just felt in this particular instance it needed to be done. Let's not lose sight of the fact that our overall budget went up 1.75%. I mean, even with that, we would have had a tremendous tax increase because of some of the things that have happened with reval. So in my mind, this was something that I offered up as a policy option. I mean, the council certainly can amend this and say, we want to reduce only a certain amount out. But what that's going to do is, everything you do will affect, really, the total TIF that's coming out unsheltered is about 50 cents on the rate. So if you want to look at it that way, that's fine. And if you feel comfortable that it's too large of a tax cut, maybe we should be putting money, leaving it in the TIF so that we can do other capital improvements, that's fine too. But I will tell you that then we better get on it, because we've been sitting around on these funds for a long time. And this is just my perspective, and take it for what you will. Certainly, as I know that Councilor Johnston reminds me, it is the city council policy, and he's absolutely right. So however you want to deal with this, that's fine too. I'm willing to table this tonight, and if you want to spend more time talking about it, we adopt the budget. The knowledge that you would have to keep is that 50 cents of the rate would be in flux. We'd still reduce the rate by about 20 cents. I just want to confirm that with the finance director. So we still would not be going up. We would be reducing the rate by 20 cents. And so it's up to the council, and I don't know what else to tell you, but those were my thoughts. I've shared my thoughts with a lot of council members on a regular basis regarding this, and you can proceed how you'd like on it. And if you want to table these two resolutions, that's fine with me. We can spend a lot of time talking about this. And how are we going to move forward with using money out of the TIFs to improve capital needs in the downtown and on transit. It's really clearly a policy decision of the council. Do you want to leave the rate at a 20-cent reduction, or do you want to drop it 70 cents? Simple as that.
Councilor Johnston.
Thank you. Yeah, again, thank you for the explanation, and as I indicated, I do support what's been presented, as I did last year. It really is, and again, we could amend it, but I'm not even suggesting that we do that. I think that at this stage in the game, it's always difficult to make these significant amendments, which is, again, consistent with last year with Councilor Berman. The large, I think it was $500,000 amendment that you put forth was something I supported, but at the moment I couldn't support it because we were in the thick of it. And similar to this, so I think we're all in agreement that the conversation should start early, but like if city staff, the administrator knows going into the next fiscal budget that we're potentially returning 40%, the conversation with council should be starting before we are handed the budget, because personally I feel once I have a budget, it's really hard to start making these amendments because all the staff's time has been spent on producing that budget, which I respect that process. It's just there's less input from council than I would like. So, like I said, I'm making the motion, so hopefully I support it, but I'm comfortable with it, and I appreciate, and like I said, I respect your desire to come in right out the gate and say, hey, let's try to, keep taxes down the best we can, and this is the methodology that you came up with. So thank you for that.
Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I also think that once the budget book is out and the public has seen it, it is not the time to making large changes that would affect taxpayers' rates. I think going from a 70-cent cut to a 20-cent cut on the mill rate, especially with the revaluations, would cause an unacceptable situation for most of the taxpayers today. What my comments are designed to do is I think what Councilor Archer was getting at is I think we need a long-term strategy for what we're doing with these TIF accounts, right? If we choose to not do the transfer next year, right, we'll see a sudden increase in spending hitting the general fund and the taxpayer. And so this is a multi-year situation that we're creating, as well as the increasing values in our TIFs. And I think that conversation needs to start tonight so that we can continue that conversation so that next year's budget book comes deliberately with use of TIF funding. I also just want to remind people that we're going to be here next year, and we're going to be looking at increased school spending, and it's going to be the result of this decision. And we need to keep that in mind as the state subsidy decreases and not be surprised when we see that. No, my intent is to support these motions tonight, keep the budget on track, let the taxpayers pay what they're expecting to pay. The excitement over the tax cut was real, and I don't think tonight's the night to reverse that. But I do think we need a different long-term strategy over time, or at least a deliberate one.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Archer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. To the city administrator, thank you for providing your strategy. It helped me recognize, and I just wanted to see, because when I start seeing a couple years out, obviously you can always come up with plans to address that. But where I'm comfortable with this, one, providing that tax relief as needed. We also have a very healthy general fund. Consider that another savings account. When I look at these TIFs, I'm thinking savings account. If you all just use your own individual finances. And sometimes the way I'm looking at it is we have this one savings account that just is a little too flush, especially when we have our couple months. I believe we're a little higher than our policy allows, more than 2 months of cash reserves. That's another way that's the general fund is cash reserves. So now that I have a better understanding on the why that was just presented, which I appreciate, I'm definitely willing to support this because I do feel comfortable that while we were penny pinching for years over years, which is a good thing traditionally, we're in a position where we actually have a little bit additional leeway to recognize that financially we're in a good position. Again, we're supposed to be at 16.6%.
16.
And we're 18, 19, I think was the last number I saw. So recognizing we have to spend down there as well, based on policy, why would we be not taking this approach to offer some relief, which we could always add to that account again if we see the need. So I'm for this and the transit. I might as well just say it now. It's the same concept. It's the same justification. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have the amended motion on the floor by Councilor Johnston, second by Councilor Archer. Any additional discussion on the amendment? Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion on the amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion. Any additional discussion? And I would just like to add, and especially where we have 2 new counselors with us this year, and I appreciate Councilor Johnston's and Councilor Berman's comments regarding staff time in putting the budget book. The budget book presented to council is a recommendation. We have the right to make the amendments. Without those amendments, we're not going to get where we need to be. So yes, staff puts the time in, and staff is ready to put the time in based on amendments. So I just would like to throw that out. And again, we do all respect staff time, and we do appreciate everything that they do, but the book presented to us is a recommendation. It is a city administrator's final task at our choice. And what we do with it is what we do with it. Okay? Thank you. So back to the main motion. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to Item E, which is now item F, and that is reducing the captured value percentage of the transit-oriented municipal development and tax increment financing district, and that is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. The City of Saco would significantly increase the property tax rate if 100% of taxes paid on the captured assessed values in the transit-oriented TIF district were to be transferred into the district. This motion returns 28% of transit-oriented development TIF district revenues for the fiscal year 2025 budget year. Whereas the City of Saco is authorized pursuant to Title 30-A Maine Revised Statute Section 5227 3D as amended to, by vote of the municipal officers, return to the municipal general fund any tax increment revenues remaining in a tax increment financing district's project cost account in excess of those estimated to be required to satisfy the obligations of that particular tax increment financing district's development project cost account. Whereas there is a need to spend taxpayer dollars on projects that are not approved project costs pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 206 and Title 30-A of the Maine Revised Statutes, or the TIF statute, and whereas currently the development program allows the city to capture 100% of the increased assessed value in this district, and whereas the city deposits 100% of the taxes paid on the captured assessed values, TIF revenues, into the city's project cost subaccount, and whereas the city would like to lower the amount of TIF revenue deposited into the city's project cost subaccount and transfer a portion of those TIF revenues to the city's general fund, now therefore be it resolved as follows. Section 1, the City of Saco City Council, serving as the city's municipal officers, hereby votes to return 28% of the TIF revenues deposited in the city's project cost subaccount for the transit-oriented municipal development and tax increment financing district, or the TIF district, to the city's general fund for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Section 2, the City of Saco City Council understands that such determination shall mean that 28% of the property taxes paid on the increased assessed value within the district for the fiscal year 2024-2025 will go to the city's general fund. All tax increment financing revenues previously collected for the district shall continue to be used on the district's approved project cost. Section 3, the City Council may, in the future, by vote, return the captured value percentage allocated to the city's project cost subaccount to a level consistent with the development program for the district for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Section 4, the City Council will need to take action on reducing the percentage of TIF revenues deposited into the city's project cost subaccount. If action is not taken, the percentage allocated to the city's project cost subaccount will be to a level consistent with the terms of the development program for the district. Section 5, the city administrator is hereby directed to notify the Department of Economic and Community Development of such reduction in the city's allocation of TIF revenues to the city's project cost subaccount. And Section 6, this resolution shall take effect immediately on 5/13/2024. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hewitt. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn? Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item G, which was Item F, which is now item G, final hearing of the adoption of the fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 2029 capital program, and that is assigned to Councilor Johnston.
What page is that? 31?
Page 31 in your packet.
Thank you. On March 25th, 2024, the city administrator presented the fiscal year 2025 budget, which included, as Section 3 of the overall budget, the 5-year capital program. The finance director notes that final costs for 2025 equipment may come in slightly higher or slightly lower than the figures set out in Section 3 due to rapidly fluctuating market conditions, and therefore the suggested motion includes an allowance to account for these disparities of up to but not more than 10%. Be it ordered that the City Council approve fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 capital program as presented by the City Administrator and subsequently amended by City Council, such capital program to also include up to but not more than 10% allowance for lease purchase costs on 2025 equipment. Any savings to be applied to the capital program costs for fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Councilor Johnston. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion? Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. Again, I will support as it's been presented. And again, not a criticism of anything or anyone in particular. But as I stated several weeks ago, a key component of this capital fund is the use of unassigned fund balance. And while I understand all the parameters or whatever that happened around RKO or the auditing firm, Chapter 15 is clear that when there's a surplus, it is to be determined in January, brought for council to expend those funds in February. Totally understand people in new roles and whatnot, but I'm just expressing that I feel personally that council got left out of this process. I'm not saying it was intentional, it's just the way the capital program gets presented is an insinuation that that's how we're going to spend those funds, which I'm not necessarily arguing the merits of how we spent them, because like I said, feel as though that conversation should have happened before it was in the budget, and that's just, I'm highlighting that for future, similar to the TIFs, because I think at times I feel like a rubber stamp, and that's not why I was elected, and it's not why I sit here. So again, I support it, and just throwing that out there for future reference, and trying to make new counselors and even older counselors aware of what I saw happen, or at least perceived was happening. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Now takes us to item G, which is now item H, final hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 municipal budget that is assigned to Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Before I read this into the record, I'd like to, just a point of clarification if I could. I'm happy to read it in. My only concern is reading in an amount that is subject to potential modification. We had a $308,000 budget allocation. We have, subsequent to this motion, we have a handful of some small amounts, donations to food pantries. So this number is going to change, and I'm just curious how you want to handle that.
Yep, City Administrator?
Yes, If we could take a 2-minute recess, we'll just make sure we have all those numbers appropriately put into place. What I will do, if it's okay with the council, I will add in the 3 amendments for Youthful Maine, Biddeford Food Pantry, and Saco Food Pantry. Not significant numbers, but we'll just do that all at once if there's no objection from the city council. I know it's slightly out of order, but I would ask that indulgence on that so we get the number accurately. Anybody have any concern with that?
Council okay with that? Any objections? Councilor Archer?
The only question I have is, 4 or 5 years, we had the live budget, whatever you want to call it. It would give you live updates on what the mill rate. Do we still have that calculator available to us? Or whatever that tool was
Yeah.
called?
We're not prepared tonight but if that's something the council wants us to bring back in the future, we certainly could.
Because that's what helped us address this. It would do the math live.
Councilor Johnston? And Councilor Berman?
May I suggest we just move the adoption of the full 2025 budget down?
Sure.
And take up the other amendments, including the school budget, first?
That makes sense.
Yep.
That way you have time to crunch
Yep,
whatever numbers.
that makes sense.
Okay, so there's been a request to move item G.
Probably,
I'm sorry, current G, previous G, current H. Move that down to the end.
I would probably make it after
Before-
K. Well, what would be?
Yep. Move that after item L. Any objection, council? Okay, so that will move us down to previous item H I, which is now back to H, actually. Yep. Brings us to item H, which is the amendment to fiscal year 2025 City Administrator's Budget for Youthful Maine, and that is Councilor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that adds $2,500 to Youthful Maine in the supported entity's budget allocation. Be it ordered that the city council add 10620-500700-00000, Youthful Maine, $2,500.
Motion has been made by Councilor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnston. Any discussion on the amendment, or on the motion? Councilor Berman, then Councilor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council had a couple of questions when we discussed this last, and I do have some updates. So Youthful Maine is able to create separate accounting for donations that are targeted towards food versus targeted towards administrative costs, and we could direct our money appropriately as we saw fit. If we give the funding now, it will likely support the Saco free distribution food site over the summer, which is hosted at Burns School each year, and any leftover funds would go into the Saco School food pantries, which are hosted at Burns, Fairfield, SMS, and sometimes Thornton's Bridges programs. While a lot of the food they supply, they do get free through food drives and donations. There are substantial costs that are incurred in supplementing those needs. However, they did note that their operating budget is extremely tight and the hardest aspect to receive donations for. And just as a personal editorial, sometimes when we evaluate charities, we do look at those operation costs as they're a negative. But of course, these are professionals who have dedicated their lives to helping youth hunger in our community. And in my mind, that professionalism and that calling is one that personally I have no problem supporting. And they have a much easier time raising funds to pay for the food than they do for those administrative and operating costs. So if council wishes, we can direct the money just towards the food, but in my mind, supporting the organization and their operational costs is of benefit also.
Thank you. Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. hopefully Councilor Berman can answer this, because you might not be the appropriate person, but last time we discussed this, I think there was some clarity sought as far as, or at least maybe this was in my own mind, what this organization does different from what the school does. And I don't have an answer. I presume that the schools, just looking at their budget, they have a summer lunch program. It seems as though they're just continuing what they do during the school year, like a bag lunch or whatnot, whereas this might be actual, like perishable food and whatnot that goes home with kids that are in need. That sound accurate?
I can't totally speak to the differences, and I was not in contact with the schools, only with Youthful Maine, so I can't totally speak to the difference. What I do understand is at the summer, they distribute free food that goes to families, older adults, and summer students, so it's not limited to the school community necessarily over the summer, although they do distribute that food at Burns. And then, according to this, the purchases that Youthful Maine makes to stock the food pantries at Burns, Fairfield, SMS, and Thornton Bridges. And so how that intersects with the school budget, I can't speak to.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a, and I don't have any, perhaps you do, I don't know if they do at the other schools. I think this is, again, correct me, or forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a program where they send home food with students in need, and so this is separate from any school lunch program or summer lunch program that the school department runs. And so that was really the only clarity. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have an overlap, but it sounds like they're two different organizations that just happens to take place at CK Burns or a different school.
I believe that's correct, but I don't have expertise in that.
Councilor Hewitt?
There is a situation where students are given lunches and things during the school week, but some of them go home and they may not have a lot to eat. And I've seen it where students come in on a Monday morning and they are so eager to eat that breakfast. So there was discussion about the 66 hours that children, when they leave school until they come back on Monday, need food, and that gap isn't always administered to by the education budget. So my guess is that that is something that Youthful Maine will take care of. But
Anyone else? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Yeah, I think I was one of the ones that was somewhat concerned about getting the money to the food and whether or not this money would have been better spent just giving it directly to the schools. But if we have a condition on this donation that it be used for food for needs within the Saco community, I would be okay with that. I think these organizations that develop cost overhead need to, and I don't disagree with you, Councilor Berman, about staffing, but there needs to be ways in which they find fundraising opportunities to handle that. Other organizations do it. So I would be in support of this only if we have a restriction on the money that it goes directly to food within the Saco community.
Is there a way for us to identify that?
I mean, certainly the letter that is sent to Youthful Maine when we cut a check would articulate that. I don't know if, I mean, it is, from a material sense, it's not a large sum of money, but we would rely on them for them to do what we were asking.
Councilor Berman?
Might I recommend, Madam Mayor and Councilor Hatch, that Councilor Hatch make an amendment to the motion stating the money is to be used for that. And my understanding from Youthful Maine is they already have separate accounts set up for things like that with Dayton and other communities they work with, and could do the same for this.
Okay. We'll note that.
Councilor Hatch?
I'd be happy to formally amend the motion to include language that states that the $2,500 donation be restricted to purchasing of food for use within the Saco community.
Okay, an amendment has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion on the amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item I, and that is the amendment to fiscal year 2025 City Administrator's budget for the Biddeford Food Pantry, and that is assigned to Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that would add $1,000 to the Biddeford Food Pantry in the supported entities budget allocation. Be it ordered that the city council add 10620 TAC 500700 TAC 0000 Biddeford Food Pantry, $1,000.
Motion has been made by Counselor Archer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it
Counselor-
only fair for holding one entity accountable to that same standard? We apply it to all similar, this is, the three that are coming up are all food-related. Should we be fair and hold that same standard that it must be a restricted use? So I will be putting a motion that it will be presented as a restricted use to food at the food pantry.
Second.
An amendment has been made by Counselor Archer, second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion on the amendment passes 7-0. Back to the main motion. Any additional discussion? Counselor Archer?
Yes, thank you. I think this is more just for the public because I think the council knows is that the reason why we're funding a we'll be also looking at the Saco's Pantry is we have a significant amount of residents that use the Biddeford's Food Pantry, and that's why it was recognized that we should help assist our neighboring cities' food pantry just because in a lot of cases where we have low-income housing, it's closer to get to the Biddeford Food Pantry than it is the Saco Food Pantry, which is near Old Orchard. So again, I think council knew this. This was just more for the public on why we would do this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item J, and that is the amendment to fiscal year 2025 City Administrator's budget for the Saco Food Pantry, and that is Counselor Berman.
I'd like to put forward an amendment to the city administrator's budget that adds $1,000 to the Saco Food Pantry Incorporated in the supported entities budget allocation. Be it ordered that the city council add 10620-500700-0000. I think I got them all. Saco Food Pantry Incorporated, $1,000 for use for the purchasing of food.
Motion has been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that takes us to item K, and that is the adoption of the fee schedule for fiscal year 2025, and that is Counselor Gunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council establishes and approves all fees and charges required by ordinances or policies in the City of Saco. This includes permits, licenses, approvals, and applications, as well as fees and charges collected by the City of Saco that are authorized by state law or require the city to set the amounts of such fees and charges. The council may establish any new fees or charges that the council deems necessary or appropriate to offset the cost of operating programs, delivering services, or administrating any ordinances or policies. Those fees shall be included in the fee schedule and updated on an as-needed basis. Be it ordered that the City Council approve the amended fee schedule for fiscal year 2025. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Gunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Roger?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item which was formerly G and H, now L, is the final hearing for the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 municipal budget. That is Counselor Hatch.
And Mayor McPhail, may I call for a recess so we can get an accurate number?
Yes.
And then I will read that into the record.
Okay, we will take a quick 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, from recess at 8:43 to continue on item L, and that is the final hearing of the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 municipal budget. That is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. On March 25th, 2024, the city administrator presented his fiscal year 2025 budget. The council met with departments and agencies to review and discuss budgets and workshops through April. Be it ordered that the city council move to adopt an appropriation order for the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget, excluding all school, county, and TIF transfers per section 6.06 and 6.07 of the charter of the city of Saco, Maine, as follows. Approve gross municipal expenditures of $35,407,217. Expenditures to be offset by $35,407,217 in anticipated revenue and other credits, which represents $4,291,461 in anticipated state revenue sharing and $12,456,969 in other local revenues, except those revenues received from the state for homestead exemptions and the BETE reimbursement, with the net to be raised by local taxes. And further, be it ordered that the approved amounts set in the following attached schedule titled City of Saco Fiscal Year 2025 Appropriation Order shall become a part of the city clerk's records and shall designate the form of the City of Saco budget for fiscal year 2025 as authorized under Section 6.04 of the Charter of the City of Saco, Maine. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Archer. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston?
Sorry, I'm catching my thoughts here. Yeah, so, I mean, overall, I can support the budget. And I do appreciate staff and the city administrator, efforts to really try and keep the burden on the taxpayer as low as possible. I think this is the first year that I've never or have not submitted an amendment. And that was definitely intentional, though there were several areas I would have liked to have amended. But I think similar, I'm just assuming, but I think similar in the sense that hopefully in June we'll have be well on our way to addressing some outdated and much needed solutions for our schools. So I definitely entered this budget cycle trying to, at all cost, ensure that we didn't have a large impact to the taxpayer, because you never know how that goes when they go to the polls. So again, I thank everybody involved, and I know this is new to two of you, and I certainly often at time probably can sound like I'm speaking a different language, and I have to remind myself that not everybody is necessarily up to the same level of education that I am with budgets. As I've said before, I've been looking at city budgets since I was a young boy, which I'm not sure I should be proud of, but in all honesty, that was all that was in the offices as I sat downstairs when my father was in meetings, and so I read them, and a lot of it was absorbed then. But I guess the only thing outside of that I have to say, and it's really just to call attention to council, something that's in the budget, and it's disclosed in there. I just want to be sure that we all understand what it is that's before us. With the communications department, years ago, when we created that department, I had suggested at the time that we use the cable franchise fees. That's the little fee you pay on your Spectrum bill in order to pay for it. That department, obviously the department has grown, it costs more. There is a proposal to create a special revenue fund to divert 100% of those fees into that fund, thereby no longer participating in the general fund. I can support it, but I just want to make sure everybody else understands that, because that decision back in, I don't know, 2017, 2018, somewhere in there, wasn't necessarily a popular choice among other counselors or even the public, because at the end of the day, a fee is a fee, right? Like, I look at my cable bill and recognize that that fee is really just another taxation. So before, it just entirely went back into the general fund and was used to offset however, council deemed. But this is an effort to put into a special revenue fund. I believe it will be interest, earning, but, and again, I can accept that, but I just want to be clear that pursuant to Chapter 78 in code, that's what governs those fees. So a subsequent action at a later date, I would hope that we would bring forth actually creating said special revenue fund, if that makes sense. Just like all the other special revenue funds, if you were to pull them up, they're almost, just about all of them are governed by some ordinance. And so we should craft an ordinance that is clear for future counselors or staff members, since, they come and go, as we all know. So just a teaching lesson, I guess. I just wanted to throw it out there, because if you pull it up, I don't have the budget directly in front of me, but I see Councilor Berman's looking at it. It's towards the back with the other funds. And that's what we'll be doing with, passing of this budget. But going back to getting out of the budget cycle, I would request, there you go, I would request that we bring it back to update Chapter 78 to recognize that those funds will now be deposited into a special revenue account. Outside of that, it's only 8:50. We could stay here longer. I think Councilor Archer remembers.
It's not 2:30 in the morning.
There you go.
And then we had to recess till Thursday.
We still got to do the school budget, so we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item L, which is now item M. That's the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 Water Resource Recovery Department budget, and that is Counselor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The fiscal year 2025 operating budget for the Water Resource Recovery Department is $4,935,835, which is supported by a sewer user fee rate of $8.55 per unit. Be it ordered that the City Council adopt the fiscal year 2025 Water Resource Recovery Department budget for the City of Saco, Maine as follows. Approve gross expenditures of $4,935,835 to be offset by $4,935,835 in anticipated revenues and other credits, which represents a 12% increase in the sewer user fee rate to $8.55. And further, approve those appropriations as determined necessary and appropriate by the city administrator from those impact fee funds where available and corresponding with the estimates presented for approval in the city administrator's budget book or as adjusted and presented to council during the course of budget deliberations. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item M, which is now item N. Council resolution approving school budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. That is Counselor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. School Board approved a budget for fiscal year 2024 and has forwarded said budget to City Council for review and approval. Be it resolved pursuant to Title 20A, Sections 2307, 1485, and 15690, that following school budget cost centers be adopted and approved for expenditure for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Regular instructions of $28,796,026. Special education, $11,770,688. Career and technical education, $0. Other instruction of $198,112. Student and staff support, $2,265,421. System administration, $1,264,241. School administration, $1,356,149. Transportation and buses, $2,432,688. Facilities and maintenance, $3,488,253. Debt service and other commitments, $0. All other expenditures, $11,900. The sum of $52,171,578 be appropriated for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essentials Programs and Services Funding Act, and the sum of $19,560,445 be raised as the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15688, state-mandated explanation. The city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that the city must raise in order to receive full amount of state dollars. The sum of $0 be raised and appropriated for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the city's voters for non-state funded school construction projects and non-state funded portions of school construction projects, in addition to the funds appropriated as a local share of the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12. State-mandated explanation. Non-state funded debt service is the amount of money needed for the annual payments on the city's long-term debt for major capital school construction projects that are not approved for state subsidy. The bonding of this long-term debt was previously approved by the city voters or other legislative body. The school board be authorized to expend $52,171,578 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, from the city's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidies, and other receipts for the support of schools, and the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal and state grants and/or programs and/or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other services do not require the expenditures of other funds not previously appropriated. I move to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Counselor Johnston. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item N, which is now item O. That is Councilor Resolution approving additional local funds for the school budget fiscal year 2024-2025, and that is Counselor Hewitt.
Be it resolved that $11,769,367 be raised and appropriated in additional local funds, which exceeds the state essential programs and services allocation model by $11,769,367 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. State mandated explanation: the additional local funds are those locally raised funds over and above the city's local contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and local amounts raised for the annual payments on non-state funded debt service that will help achieve the school department budget for educational programs. School Board's Statement of Reason for Excellence Essential Programs and Services Allocation Model. The school budget proposed for the fiscal year exceeds the state funding allocation model for various reasons. In general, the model does not recognize the actual cost to operate, maintain the school programs and curriculum. The state is not funding the model at 55% of the actual total cost of educating. Number 3, the state has added a certain costs to the model without increasing available funding, such as state share of teachers' retirement costs. Number 4, the state has reduced or eliminated funding of costs necessary to operate the schools by such means as changing the student-teacher ratio, the student ed tech, and other student-staff ratios, and reducing funding of administrative costs. Note, Title 20-A, Section 15671-A5, B requires a separate recorded vote for these additional local funds and approval by a majority of the full council. Section 15690 provides for the school board's statement of reason to accompany the article as provided to the council. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hewitt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gunn. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt? Counselor
Yes.
Johnston? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item O, which is now item P, and that is the council resolution approving adult education budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025, and that is Counselor Berman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The school board approved a budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 and has forwarded said budget to the city council for review and approval. Be it resolved that $140,578 be appropriated for adult education and that $140,578 be raised as a local share with authorization to expend any additional, incidental, or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for well-being of the adult education program. I move to approve the resolution.
Motion has been made by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Counselor Hatch. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item P, which is now item Q. That is set the fiscal year 2025 property tax due dates and interest rates. And that is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Under Title 36 MRSA Section 505, a municipality may, by vote, determine the interest rate that shall apply to delinquent taxes committed during the taxable year until those taxes are paid in full. The Treasurer of the State of Maine determined that the maximum rate of interest that can be charged per Title 36 MRSA Section 505-4 for the taxable year 2024, with a tax due date of 4/1/2024, is 8%. Therefore, for the fiscal year 2025 tax commitment, the maximum rate allowed is 8.0%. City Council has elected to set an interest rate of 8.0% for fiscal year 2025. Under Title 36 MRSA Section 506 and 506-A, a municipality may set the interest rates for overpayment of taxes at no less than the delinquent tax rate minus 4 points and authorize the prepayment of taxes. Therefore, we are requesting the City Council set the interest rate of 4.0% for the overpayment of the fiscal year 2025 taxes and authorize the application of any prepayment of taxes directly to the tax account as they are received without having to pay interest on these payments. The tax payment due dates are as follows. First half, 9/10/24, interest accruing from 9/11/24. The second half due 3/10/25, interest accruing from 3/11/24. An amendment to Easy Pay due dates, continuation of the Easy Pay program for fiscal year 2025 with 8 monthly payments starting September 14th, 2024 and ending April 15th, 2025. Be it ordered that the City Council set the interest rate for delinquent fiscal year 2025 property taxes at 8%, set the refund interest rate of fiscal year 2025 tax payments at 4%, and authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of taxes not yet committed without having to pay interest on these prepayments, and to establish the due dates for tax payments as follows. Payment for the first half due September 10, 2024, with interest accruing from September 11th, 2024, and payment for the second half due on March 10th, 2025, with interest accruing from March 11th, 2025. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hewitt. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item Q, which is now item R. That is reconfirm the authority to apply tax payments to the oldest outstanding tax, and that is Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. On October 6, 1986, the City Council approved a tax collection policy which allowed the treasurer or the tax collector to apply tax payments received from an individual to the oldest unpaid tax bill first. We would like to reconfirm the existing policy with the onset of a new tax year. Tax collection policy, the municipal officers of the City of Saco have approved the request of the municipal treasurer and the tax collector that any tax payments received from an individual as payment for any property tax or personal property be applied against outstanding or delinquent taxes due on that property in chronological order, beginning with the oldest unpaid tax bill. Taxes may not be applied to a period for which abatement request or appeal has not been resolved unless approved in writing by the taxpayer. Also, on the 30-day lien notice or 45 to 30-day foreclosure notice, a statement will be added indicating the city's tax collection policy. Be it ordered that the City Council accept the tax collection policy as presented pursuant to Title 36 MRSA Section 906. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item 10, and that is the administrative update. City Administrator Bohanko?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 11 this evening, council discussion and comment. Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Johnston?
Thank you. I don't need the answer right now. I'm just curious with the passing of the 300+ thousand from into capital. I would assume there's a project or projects that are likely falling off this cycle since it seems to have a 18-month window to get this complete. So I'm just curious if at a later date I can have a better understanding of what will not be complete that is in the current capital plan that was approved last year.
Okay.
You have that down for reference? Okay. Anyone else? Counselor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. I just want to give a shout out to our two newest counselors who jumped into their first budget process. So I know that both of them reached out to me for some insight, and I'm sure they've reached out to other counselors. So I appreciate the fact that you've taken that role as seriously as you have. I expect that next time around we'll get you in the foray of conversation and discussion. So I just wanted to give you both a shout out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I would like to just throw out to everyone that, as most know, on Tuesday nights I do hold open office hours. And tomorrow night, I would like to dedicate and make sure that we encourage all residents to stop by if you have any questions or concerns regarding the school construction bond referendum question. I am here as a resource, and my office is open tomorrow from 5:30 to 7. Okay, that now takes us to item 12, and that is the adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second? Second? Counselor Johnston?
I can't second my own motion. So.
Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
No.
Counselor Parks?
No.
Don't push it, guys.
Some sanity here, yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.